Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Field to Future process. Thank you for joining us today. I'm just going to quickly go through the process. So we're going to start today. Dewald will take the piece on the structure and the current red meat industry structure. So you will go through that, and then Philip will go through the Field to Future process and how that will be working. Just a few arrangements. So this is a webinar. You guys will not be able to put your sound or your videos on, but there is a Q&A section if you want to ask anything. But the main feedback from our side will be done via e-form after this meeting. So everyone should please go and fill that in so that they can indicate what their feedback is on the process. An email will be sent out afterwards with the link, and I will also send you guys the presentation. And we will then also put the recording on YouTube if there's anyone that cannot stay for the entire webinar, or perhaps is missing this. So then we will put that onto YouTube, and we will also share that link to everyone. Okay, so I'm going to give over to Dewald to start.
Morning, everybody. Massively excited to see everybody. We are 90 people on this call or on the seminar. We're very happy to see, and if I go through the names, some of you I do know and some of you I don't. Please feel free and welcome to write in the chat box. It's really good to see old faces, and then, like I said, new ones, which I don't know yet. We are excited about this process that we're following. You'll see the entire idea of the process is to get as much as possible information and requests and guidance from ground level up. We understand it's very important, and we would like to, you'll see at the end how we want to approach this, is to say that there's a bridge between research, applied research, and obviously then at the end of the day, the value chain role players and the benefit that they get out of the specific research and development done. It is obviously based on a statutory levy, and I think that's very important just to mention that. So the payers of the statutory levy, each and every farmer, abattoir, feedlot, young farmer, small farmer, commercial farmer, they are the payers of the statutory levy. And ultimately, we and everybody in this call at RMIS, our cluster members, RPO, Feedlot Association, NARPU or NALFA, and then the RMIA, we are all responsible to ensure that our members or our participants, our task is tasked with and ensure that we comply with and give them the benefit back. So we can start off the process. We've got 2 hours scheduled, but I don't think we'll take 2 hours. We just wanted to allow enough time so that we don't have to rush through it. Good. Let's go to our first page. In the previous dispensation, and I know if you do know about this and can remember it, it's not that long ago, but some of us weren't even here. We had a very siloed approach with regards to the way that we've gone on and looked at all the issues in the value chain. If you look at just the silos were in the sense that the commercial farmers were the RPO and the emergings were NARPO and SAFA and the Abattoir Association, and we to a great extent all looked at the same things from a different perspective, and we actually to a great extent had a lot of money, but it was spent in these silo approaches, and it actually made it not very competitive with regards to other animal proteins, firstly, and secondly, those obviously other protein sources which we compete against. One of the biggest ones which I can highlight there is, for example, transformation. All of these organizations had to look at transformation, and we could really only do so much with the money that was received in the silo approach. You can continue. So we then look at the role players that were in the RMIF. And again, if you look at the structure, we had the red meat levy administrator, which was the administrator of the levy, and they collected the levy at 3 points, at 3 levy points. Then it was transferred to MSMS, and then it was actually just its flow through RMIF to the specific organizations who delivered functions or business plans, had business plans in place to the old RMIF. You'll see on the right-hand side, we've got 2 trusts there. The one trust, which has got the green arrow, is still in existence. Both trusts are in existence, but the RMRDT, Red Meat Research and Development Trust, explicitly received funding from the statutory levy, whereas Meat Industry Trust is a legacy trust that was created out of the old meat board, and they do not receive money from the statutory levy from the beginning. What is also important is, and we'll get back to those trusts because they play a massively important part, and specifically the Meat Industry Trust, that look at students specifically and look at bursaries for masters and PhD students. Now, back to the left-hand side, RPO, NARPU, the Feedlot Association and the RMAA came together and said that they would like to form a new levy, if I can call it that. They worked together and they approached government, and specifically the Minister of Agriculture, and through that, their membership base said that they want a levy on their own, but they needed something different, and they created an organization as we know today as RMIS. Now, RMIS, you'll see the top part of it looks the same. RMIS is the administrator of the levy, receive the levy via also a procedure from only one place at this stage is the abattoirs. So we only collect, and the regulation is very clear about that. The owner of the animal at slaughter pays the statutory levy, and that is collected by ALS, Agricultural Levy Services. Now, it's also important to understand and note that Agricultural Levy Services has got a 50-50 shareholdership, of which the one is Feedlot, the RPO, Red Meat, SAPO, South African Pork Producers Organisation, and RMIS. So RMIS and SAPO are the shareholders of ALS. In the past, ALS, or then the previous organisation, RMLA, the Red Meat Levy Administrator, they acted as the administrator of the levy. In this new setup, in the new dispensation, if I can call it, RMIS is the administrator. So we are mandated by the regulation to do whatever needs to be done to ensure that their services are being delivered to the value chain role players. As you can see there, it's mandated by the Department of Agriculture, as it's now called, from the 1st of April. And then also the industry role players as those 4 organizations that we mentioned. Then we are built on our strategy is actually on 4 pillars. And for those of you, please bear with me, you do know this. Animal and public health is the first one. The second one is inclusive growth or transformation, when we report back to the National Agricultural Marketing Council. Then market access is the third pillar, and fourth pillar is competitiveness and sustainability. Now, the funds specifically are allocated directly from these projects and in accordance with the Red Meat Strategy 2030. We'll get to that now in a second. On the right-hand side, you'll see the board of directors of RMIS. Now, it's also important to understand how it came about, and I'm quickly going to the bottom. Now, the Red Meat Primary Cluster, which is those 4 organizations whose members applied for the statutory levy, they've got a constitution, and they act as an advisory support to RMIS. But they also each nominate one representative, and it can be anybody. That's very important, to represent or be a representative on the RMIS board. You'll see at the top, you'll see that there's a representative of each cluster member, which is RPO, NARPU, SAFA, and the Abattoir Association. And then there's so there's 4 directors from the 4 cluster members, 2 independent directors one executive director, and one independent non-voting chairperson. So the chairperson do not have voting rights, which leaves with 4, 5, 6, 7 members of the board, which ensure that firstly, there's no veto ever by a chairperson, and secondly, there's also 7 members that can vote, and we should never be in a position whereby there's a stalemate. The board has got an approval and oversight function as any board naturally does have. If we look at the RMIS team, and that's where these 6 ideas will come and play a lot later as well: research, development, implementation, adaptation, evaluation, and reporting. And that's the focus that we have specifically on where we're going with regards to our strategy. Now, the roadmap is very important. We started the levy application in 2021, and it actually kicked off after it was promulgated in October 2022, and we started on the 5th of November 2022. Now, very important, and sometimes people miss this. On day 1, there was R0 in the bank account of RMIS. We couldn't start and engage organizations and start employing people. We had to build up a fund to ensure that we can pay our necessary accounts, etc. But we also, at that stage, understood that we had to, in some way, not drop the ball with regards to the business plans and the business that was already in place. So you'll see there that there's a yellow or golden arrow that says legacy business, and that was business as usual. So we looked at the previous statutory levies business plans, and we implemented or engaged on those business plans, and money were distributed according to those previous business plans. We then got to November 2023. And November 2023 was actually the start of the first year of operation of RMIS. We then had money in the bank. We then had, we were 1 year into the levy. However, we could only then start specifically focusing on specific projects. And the legacy projects then ended, and we had to look at new projects. So the first year of operation was then 2023 up until November 2024. Which means at the end of the day that we were in operation for now approximately a year and a few months, 17 months actually. Then we went into November 2024, 2 years in, 1 year operational, and we start to look at new projects. You'll see the only project that actually there's actually three or four projects that spilled over from the previous or the first statutory levy period or this first year that we were in operation. And then we started to relook what we have to do. One of the biggest and obvious why we have a discussion today is research and development. Now, it was very important not to only look at research and development from a point of just giving money for the sake of giving money. Going back for specific research, going back to my first comment to say that the payer of the statutory levy are the farmers, the feedlotters, the abattoirs, and they need specific research to be done on specific projects for the specific industry. But there's a second portion to research. It's development. And we need to understand that development forms part of the category of research and development. And there were necessary development done and specific research done to ensure that we align with what needs to be done going forward to aim and to reach our 2030 strategy. So a lot could not be done in the first period when we did the Strategy 2030 document with BFAP. And I know it's a cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway. We didn't know what we didn't know. There were so many things that we encountered within the first 12 to 16 to 18 months even, which we didn't know we're going to encounter, and things we didn't necessarily think of at the start of this statutory levy period. But that being said, we need to also take into consideration the fact that this is a 4-year levy period. It's not a 1-year levy period that we have every year. It's a 4-year levy period, and we're looking at renewing the levy period in November in 2026, application to be submitted in March 2026. Then we are looking at a period up until 2030. So the levy update at this stage will be done in March. We will be submitting a new specific levy application at that specific date. Now, if we look at so what guides us at RMIS? Very important to understand, we've got the red meat strategy, as I mentioned earlier, and those are the objectives, adding to the baseline projection of our growth, adding to specific jobs, increasing and adding additional weaner calves, increasing exports, and so on. But that is not the only thing that guides us. It's also government strategies, of which we were part of, the Agricultural and Agri-Processing Master Plan, which coincidentally, we were very lucky to do our strategy just before we started with the negotiations of the AAMP. And the red meat strategy actually aligned perfectly with the AAMP. And then we've got also the National Development Plan, which will end in 2030. Now, if we look on the right-hand side, you'll see the MAP Act. Very, very important. Now, sometimes we miss this, and I think it's very important to understand that the statutory levy is regulated by the MAP Act. And those objectives are the objectives that we need to comply with in terms of the Act. We need to increase market access for the payers of the statutory levy. We need to promote or efficiently promote the marketing of the specific product of the payers of the statutory levy. We need to optimize export earnings to the payers of the statutory levy. And we need to enhance, we need the enhancement of the viability of the specific agricultural sector of those payers of the statutory levy. So very, very important, that is the Act. Now, obviously, we need to report back as RMIS, and we do that in accordance with the funding requirements that was approved by the NAMC or the minister through the NAMC. So the minister approves the statutory levy and the NAMC gives guidance to the minister. Now, if you look at it, it's research and development is there, transformation, which we call, as I said, inclusive growth, production development is there, industry information, consumer education, and then quality control and market access. Now, if we just stand still there, we've got, I referred earlier back to, or earlier referred to our pillars, which we work within. And then now we've got the NAMC funding. And I can tell you that this was actually one of the biggest mapping exercises that we had to do, not in this format, but when we applied for the statutory levy to align our pillars with the pillars of the NAMC. And I don't want to go into too much detail with regards to this slide, but one thing that you can see is if you look at the funding requirements or the categories of the NAMC, the first one is research and development. And if you look at the left-hand side, the pillars, the red meat industry strategy pillars, animal health and public health, market access, inclusive growth, competitiveness, sustainability, and the cross-cutting issues that we need to adhere to, all actually fits in under research and development. So RMIS is of the stance that everything that we do actually has a component of research and development embedded within it. We can go over to transformation and the like of all the other NAMC funding categories. But specifically, if we look at that, it's very important to understand that research and development forms a massive part. And that's why I think to a great extent, the focus on being exact and very sure on where we spend our funding with regards to research and development is so important. If we look at, those are the projects that was currently approved. Its first one is traceability. So that's the traceability or the data exchange platform that we're currently building. I'm not going into too much detail with regards to the projects itself. Then we've got inclusive growth. That is 20% of our levy that needs to, in terms of the application, go to inclusive growth or transformation. Animal health recording system, which is currently on our website. Meat safety and public health, mainly a service delivered by the Abattoir Association. Certified South African red meat. That is an ISO standard which we're in finalization stage, or the stages of finalization, to ensure that we have got a brand called Certified South African Red Meat, which we can sell internationally and local. Stock prevention, obviously very important. Producer development and communication, you see. consumer education. You would have seen, if not, there's a brand called Beef and Lamb South Africa. That's where that fits in. Very important. There is also the focus on education at school level. We have the opportunity through our consumer education project to assist with and guide the Department of Education to rewrite the syllabus of grade 10, 11 and 12 students at school and ensure that red meat is incorporated into their syllabus, firstly. And secondly, we've got a program that is based on Train the Trainer, whereby teachers can actually go onto a website sponsored by RMIS to ensure that they get the necessary information to teach the children according to the syllabus that was changed. Then you'll see research and development and biosecurity marshals and animal and public health. The biosecurity marshals is a very recent addition, and then animal public health speak to a great extent about the appointment of a chief veterinary officer within RMIS. The publication is out and you'll see, so if you're a veterinarian and you would like to apply, please look at it. There is an advertisement out for a chief veterinary officer within RMIS. I want to jump one back to research and development. You'll see it's 9 million rand. The reason for that is specifically and as I mentioned, we had a period whereby we kept funds in the reserve to ensure that we've got enough funding to start a process of looking at this specific research and development. There's 9 million rand earmarked at this stage. And with that, we're saying, how do we spend this? As I said, it was accumulated since 2023. In 2022-2023 period, it was accumulated. Again, I reiterate, it's a flexible use of funds. We need to understand that it's not year to year. It is a 4-year levy period. Then R&D, structural and operational costs. Very important. We saw, I was for a limited time part of the RMIF, the previous setup, and what we saw was, if we do not pay the specific heads of the research committees, and it's very, very true, there's a lack of interest. So we need to compensate those specific heads or then chairpersons or moderators of those specific committees to ensure interest and to ensure that we get the best from them, and at this stage get the best for the levy payer. Then you'll see the last point there is allocated projects. A project of the funding has already been allocated to short-term interventions. Again, I say we did utilize research and development in specific projects. If we look, for example, at research with regards to traceability, a lot of research had to go into traceability to ensure that we've got the right project, the right angle of approach, the right tool to map, and at the end of the day, platform to engage with our community. So supporting our research at a minimum, we provide a foundation for implementable outcomes to support the advancement of the red meat industry. And again, applied research, science that we can utilize to the advantage of the farmers. And that brings us to the process. And looking at the process, I'm going to hand over to Philip to just explain a little bit about the process that we're going to follow, and the specific committees that we're going to look at. Before we get there, I think everything that I've explained up until now has been very much historical and a background on where we are. I would like to invite you to please, you'll see throughout, I see that there's messages coming in. You're more than welcome to type your messages in the box. We would like your input. We do know that we do not have all the answers, and we also know that we need your inputs with regards to where we're going with this. So we would like your guidance, we would like your input, and please feel free to comment. And if you do not, many of you do already have our private contact details. If you would like, do not want to do it on there, there'll also be a link at the bottom at the end where you can fill in an e-form to give us your guidance. So please, with that in mind, over to you, Philip.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's really, as David said, exciting to launch this. I think it's very important to understand that this is a structure that we would like to implement, but we need the input of everybody out there, especially the researchers, to assist to to enhance the structure and to get it optimal. So this is the first, to a great extent, the first draft. We think it can work, and we've got a responsibility to make this work, but we need the input from all the researchers specifically to make sure that the structure can work for our industry as a whole. The name Field to Future process, I think, is very fitting. The idea behind the field is to get the needs analysis, to get everything from ground level up, both from a research or academic point of view, with that skill sets and knowledge and expertise, but also from a industry point of view, to say what's actually needed in the industry and that what needs to be implemented in the industry to enhance the entire red meat value chain. And I think that's sort of the objective of this, is to link and to work together as researchers or academic with industry to make sure that whatever research goes through the structure is relevant research that can be developed into a value-adding product or whatever the objective of a specific project might be. And then just the future. I mean, everything needs to add on to be a building block for the future of our industry, to enhance the industry at the end of the day. This slide specifically refers to what we're doing at RMIS. So RMIS, we've got a very specific job, and it is to a great extent unite the industry with the researchers, and to make sure that we use the researchers with this set skill set and expertise to do applied research, as Devil referred to, but also to make sure that the needs are the needs of the industry, and that the industry will adopt whatever research and development comes from these projects, which I think is something that we have to focus on. There's a lot of research and brilliant research being done for many, many years. However, the implementation part is not that easy. It's not the fault of anybody. It's not that easy to actually implement the research and make it work in industry out there to add benefit to a great extent. Another job that we have at RMIS is we are guided by the Red Meat Strategy 2030. So I urge everybody to go have a read. It is on our website. Is we have to do research that will accumulate and being used as building blocks to get to the goals and objectives of 2030. The goals and objectives will change over time, but 2030 is set, and I think everything needs to go into that direction so that we can build the industry, make sure certain things are in place for 2030, and then we can move on to other objectives as well. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this slide. A lot of it is going to go on this slide. So on the left-hand side, we've got the proposed structure with the different groups, and on the right-hand side, that's the process, sort of the action points that these groups will do. So the idea is to sort of a filter process. If you look at the funneling down of this slide, it's a filter process. And the idea is to start with focus areas. I think everybody is familiar with focus areas. So the focus areas will be groups. The idea is we do have proposed focus areas, which will be on the next slide. So just hold those comments for the next slide. And the idea of these focus groups is really to open it up for everybody out there, not to have a limited number of people. The idea is also to have researchers as well as industry on these focus groups, really focusing time and attention on specific challenges out there so that we can get the ideas. And the idea is on the right-hand side is to identify the needs and generate R&D topics. So the idea is really to open it up. We need as many people out there as possible to join these groups. We are going to go into how the structure will look, so just hold those comments as well. But the idea is to give everybody opportunity to add value to these focus area groups, to put on the table whatever it was already done, what they can add, what the ideas are, and really to open it up. And as I said, there will be no limit on the amount of people within a focus group. The idea is a lot of people, and I think that's sort of the building block for everything, is to sort of allow everybody a seat at the table. Okay, so the proposed focused groups, there's 8 of them. As Corla mentioned in the beginning, there will be an e-form sent to everybody on this call and out there. You can raise your voice and give your opinion on focus area groups, whether we should amend some of the focus groups or add focus groups or remove focus groups. So there will be an e-form. We just need some structure. So please vote for the focus groups and put up your hand in which focus group you would like to serve. You can also be on different focus groups, no problem with that. And if we missed focus groups, you're more than welcome. Please tell us on the e-form that will be sent afterwards. This is a collaborative approach and we'd like everybody to be involved in the setup of this structure. The idea of the focus groups, then there will be a facilitator of each focus group. There needs to be a facilitator, and the facilitator will assist to collate the topics and to present it to the prioritization team, which moves us over to the prioritization team. And I think that's quite important to understand as well. So the idea is to get all the needs analysis and the R&D topics out there within the focus groups. The facilitators brings it to the prioritization team, and the prioritization team within RMIS will go into detail in each of these steps and each of these teams. The prioritization team will look at prioritizing topics within a focus group. Hopefully there will be multiple topics, 20, 30, 50. There's not going to be a limit on the amount of topics within a focus group. Is that the prioritization team will assist to prioritize those topics within a focus group and also across the focus groups, is to say where is the highest priorities out there that RMIS needs to look at and to create projects around it so that we can implement it and fund it. Okay, so I think that's very important, is to prioritize. We're not going to get to everything with limited funding, but also from RMIS side, we would also like to play a role in getting additional funding if necessary and if there's projects that can be funded from external funds. Okay, so after the prioritization team, it will go to the RMIS innovation unit. So that's actually sort of the split between ideas, research ideas or needs being packaged as projects. So the idea of the innovation unit is to determine the feasibility of a project and to package it. And from there will be a call for proposals or action. So the idea behind the proposals for action, on the one part, if it's pure academics, going back to the research, a call for proposals will be done in this step, is to make sure that the call for proposals to the universities or research institutes out there, that it's a very specific call for proposals, and hopefully that will run smoothly as well. And the call for action is some of the stuff that we get through this process might be allocated to a third-party service provider that might not necessarily be a university with regards to pure research to a great extent, but to an implementation or development part of it. Hence the reason some of the ideas that will be transformed into projects will either go for pure research, which will be implemented later on, or call for action for third-party service providers. The compiling of the project portfolio for the coming year will then be done by the bigger RMIS and final sign-off by the RMIS board. Okay, so I think the funneling down process is relatively simple, and I think it's a filtering down process. And we're going to jump into each and every focus area or each and every group as it's stipulated on the left-hand side. Just give the slide 2 seconds to go on. So the proposed or suggested focus groups, and I know everybody will have their opinion on these focus groups. You're more than welcome to raise your opinion and your suggestions on the e-form that will be sent afterwards. So the idea is, well, mainly we have to look at the different disciplines out there. We know that, but we also need to look at the pillars within the 2030 strategy. So to a great extent, the strategy needs to guide us through this to make sure that we do let's call it correct research to be set as a building stone and a building block to get to the objectives of 2030. So the first one is animal health, biosecurity and traceability. So I think that's quite an easy one to know who fits in there and so forth. The second one is public health, very specifically meat safety and the consumer part with regards to that. If you look at sustainability, guided by environment and social, then competitiveness, very specifically with regards to production, genetics, nutrition and so forth. market access, specifically the development of markets and insights with regard to decision making and so forth. Number 6, inclusive growth, very specifically the development of small-scale farmers. And then number 7 and 8, I think is really exciting me with regards to what we can get from this is innovation, but very specifically guided by technology, which I think is most probably going to be a highlight focus area to be part of. And then the last one is sort of an unspoken one, is value chain risk, resilience, and very specifically change management. That is a massive challenge in our industry. We don't necessarily look at it in depth and so forth. So hopefully that focus group can also guide us with regards to change management, communication within the industry and so forth. So as I said, these are the suggested focus groups. Please, they are on the e-form. You can raise your hand to be part of them. You can also add, if you'd like to add more focus groups, or tell us that some of these focus groups needs to be formed in one focus group, or amend a focus group. That's why the e-form is there. We just need a structured way to do it. So please raise your voice on the e-form afterwards. Okay, so let's quickly jump into a focus area, the focus group, focus area group. So first question is, who's part of this? Very specifically, as I started this, is the researchers and the industry stakeholders. That's the whole idea, is that we get together as to unite the researchers and the industry role players to do the necessary needs analysis and so forth, to get all the ideas out there. And of course, there will be a secretariat from RMIS side to make sure that everything is recorded and so forth. The function of a focus area group is to help identify needs and generate topics, as we already discussed, and to elevate relevant topics and proposals out there in order for the prioritization team to do their job to get this up and running. Okay, it also acts as a first filter or funnel across the relevant ideas. So I think that's very clear. And also, it's not only to get the needs analysis from ground level up. We can also, from a prioritization team or the RMIS innovation unit or the RMIS board, we can also use these focus area groups, and we'd like to use the focus area groups maybe to send back a project and to say, please refine this, have a look at this, that we understand the need correctly, that we package the project correctly, and so forth. So it's a two-way street. It's not only to use the focus groups to get the ideas. We also want them to be part of the final product at the end of the day. Just to explain the group dynamics, it will be organized by facilitators. As I said, the facilitator, there will be one per focus group. How it's also going to work with regards to facilitator on the e-form that we'll send afterwards. Please nominate yourself as a facilitator or nominate anybody else that you think might be a good facilitator, whether it's a researcher from academic background or industry person, industry leader. The floor is open. I think it's a great opportunity to select whoever needs to be selected within one of these focus groups, and you have the opportunity to once again raise your voice and have your opinion on who needs to be the facilitator of these groups. From a structure point of view, RMIS will still have the secretariat there and organize the meetings and doing things like that, so don't worry about that. But we need a facilitator that knows that industry very well within these focus groups. Point number 2, I think that's most probably the most important point. It will be open groups. It's not a selected member base or something like that. There's going to be a facilitator, and then it's an open group. With regards to the meetings, the idea is to have hybrid meetings. Hopefully we'll have 20, 30 or 100 people with physical attendance, but there will always be a Teams link as well. So we open this up so that we can get a lot of information, a lot of ideas and possible solutions from all over. No limit on participants within these groups. And once again, you can be part of all the groups if you want to. The idea is to have biannual meetings at least. and we'll get to a process flow now and timeline as well. The meetings will be recorded and there will be reports on the meetings. We'll do that from RMIS side, from an admin point of view. And once again, no limit on topics. The idea is to open it up and get as much as possible. And then once again, these groups needs to be fluid. We can add groups on an annual basis. We can remove groups on an annual basis and maybe modify some of these groups if necessary, as we see is fitting over time. There will be a terms of reference or call it the SOP or whatever on how these groups will be functioning. Otherwise, it's going to be chaos. So don't stress about that. If you say open groups, it might be chaos. It will be organized chaos to a great extent. So we'll set up a terms of reference and so forth, so we can have some structure and standards throughout all the groups. The facilitator, as I mentioned, will be elected by the focus group participants. We're not going to select it from RMIS side. The whole idea is that industry and the researchers needs to elect the facilitator, and there can be a different facilitator on an annual basis. So we can change facilitators, and also according to us, a maximum of 3 years for one facilitator, and the idea is to keep it rolling, to keep the ideas fresh and so forth. And then the facilitator will also be part of the prioritization team to represent that specific focus area on the prioritization team. And the whole idea is to cross-pollinate as well, ideas and so forth. Okay. And then the last point, we should mention that as well. The facilitator will have a little bit of work, so the facilitator will be compensated. Not going to work for RMIS, but we have to compensate the facilitator for all the work that they will put into to make sure that the group functions efficiently. Okay, so let's end off with the focus groups. Why become part of the focus group? I think this is very, very important. To be part of it, I mean, as an ex-researcher, the question is why not? I mean, let your voice be heard. Everybody wants a seat at the table, so this is your chance to have a seat at the table, to raise questions and solutions and so forth, to be part of the bigger picture of the red meat value chain, and to drive meaningful impact. I think everybody can read what's on the slides, and also have access to the insights and the resources from first-hand experience on these discussions within the focus groups, and influence decision making. If you want to influence decision making, this is your chance to do that, and we're setting up the structure for that. Let's quickly look at these meetings. So the idea is to have one meeting within 2025 this year for each and every focus group area. We'll get to the timeline now, but in time into next year and the year after, we would like to split it up to do it in different regions. I think it makes a lot of sense with regards to the different universities being the different provinces and so forth, but also within the different focus areas. For example, animal health with animal diseases, it might be an added benefit to ring fence some of these challenges with regards to certain regions in South Africa. So the idea is to split it into North and South, 2 meetings for each and every group next year, and then in 3 regions in 2027, to sort of narrow it down and to make the projects and the ideas more specific to a great extent. Let's quickly jump into the prioritization team. So I think it's quite clear what the focus groups will do. So the focus groups, just to maybe recap on that, focus groups do the needs analysis and they get the topics out from ground level. Just give us 2 seconds for the slide to pop up. There we go. Apologies for that. Okay, so let's quickly jump into the prioritization team. The idea is to have plus minus 15 people on the prioritization team. And who's on the prioritization team? I think that's very important, is the RMIS Innovation Unit. So that's the internal team in RMIS that needs to take these ideas and transform them into projects, so that we can send out the call for proposals or action. From RMIS side, we'll also have a secretariat to make sure everything is in place and the proper reporting and so forth needs to happen. And then the RMPC, as David referred to, the red meat primary cluster from NARPU, now known as NALFA SA, Apologies for the slides. Just keep on going. So NALFA SA, the Feedlot Association, and the Abattoir Association. So there will be a nominated person from each of those cluster members to be part of the prioritization team as well. Apologies for the slides. Let's just give it 2 seconds again. So just back on the prioritization team will be RMAs, one representative of each of the cluster members, and then the elected facilitator of the focus area groups. So that will mainly be the prioritization team, and then also experts, industry experts, whoever we need on that prioritization team to make proper decisions and to guide the prioritization team in prioritizing these ideas from ground level up. The function to the right-hand side is high-level filtering. As you said, the focus groups is sort of the first layer of filtering. This will be a high level of filtering to prioritize the topics, as we said, within the groups and across all the focus groups. And I think the major thing is to align it with the REDMI Strategy 2030, to make sure that we do prioritize the correct projects and package them correctly so it can actually add value to get to the 2030 objectives and goals that we have. And to do decision support. On the left-hand side, I think this is very important to know as well. Everybody on the prioritization team, there will be service level agreements with RMIS. As we said, the facilitators will be compensated for their time and so forth. So there will be NDAs and service levels agreement that we do this correctly. There will be governance in place. There will be a conflict of interest rules around that as well. And there will be a predetermined structure. So it's already set up. We will in due time circulate that to everybody so that you understand how that process will work as well. Okay, so that's the prioritization team. Now it's quicker. Okay, let's move over from the prioritization team, giving over all the projects, all the ideas to the RMA's innovation unit. And just to take you guys back, this is sort of the step where the ideas needs to be packaged as projects to make sure that it is projects for 2030 strategy, that we have budget for it, and it's actually implementable to a great extent, and to get the necessary service providers or researchers on board to actually action on these needs. I think it's important to understand that a lot of the services are done within RMIS, within our office, but the majority of the current services and to a great extent all the research in this instance will be set out to third-party service providers. RMI is just being the facilitator with regards to that. So within the innovation unit is the RMI's management. So we'll pull in whoever needs to be pulled in. We're also in the process to appoint a vet within RMIS. So if it's disease related and so forth, we'll pull in the necessary guys to assist us with that, and also co-op technical participants, whoever is needed to give an input on these ideas and to structure projects correctly to a great extent. The biggest function of the RMA's innovation unit will be to determine the feasibility of the challenge and the possible solution, and to do the resource and budget assessment for us to give it to our board for final approval. Once again, it has to be aligned with the 2030 strategy. I think that is mentioned like 100 times now. The biggest thing is from this RMA's innovation unit, once again, repeating myself, is we're going to send out the proposals from this stage within the process to all the universities or third-party service providers that we need for a specific project. I'm going to skip to the next slide. Once again, takes a little bit of time. Apologies for that. I'll carry on. We'll wait for the slide. There we go. I think it's important to note that this structure is put in place to get everybody on board, to get all the ideas and expertise out there, and to make sure we know what's going on out there so that RMAs can make better decisions with regards to where the statutory funds and the outside funds needs to be allocated to reach our goals. At the end of the day, the accountability is still with RMIS. The final accountability for levy for levy funds is still with RMIS with regards to reporting to the NMC, through the NMC to the minister. So all accountability is still with RMIS. There's also an assessment framework that we're finalizing within the next 2 to 3 months. And the idea of the assessment framework is to assess each and every project, and to a great extent each and every rand that's spent, levy money that's spent through RMIS, is to assess it and to make sure that it is quantifiable, and that it does enhance our chances and probability to get to the objectives of the 2030 strategy. A big thing to note as well is all service providers, whether it's researchers or third-party providers, with regards to developing something or implementing a project, or in what stage it might be, there will be a signed service level agreement with RMIS. There will be quarterly feedback. The payments will also be quarterly to a great extent, depending on the project. So this will be done with regards to the proper due diligence and frameworks with regards to that. Okay, we're going to end off with a timeline. I think that's the only thing that everybody is actually on the call for. So let's end up with the timeline. So before we go into this timeline, there's 2 slides. The next slide is very similar to this one. It's important to note that we're going to use exactly the same structure that we just discussed for peer R&D to a great extent, which is going to happen in the next 2 months, 3 months. And we're also going to use this structure, this exact same structure, starting in August, to go through the bigger projects, bigger RMIS projects, to help us to assist us to get to the project portfolio for next year. So let's start off with the first one. So I think with regards to the topics, everybody is familiar with that now. So the 15th of April, that's our introduction meeting, and the e-form will be sent out. Please raise your hand on the e-form. Try to assist us with regards to the different focus area groups, add groups, amend them. Please use the e-form, and also put up your hand to nominate yourself to be in a focus group or in an area group, and also needs to be the facilitator. So you've got a chance now to really raise your voice with regards to that. So please use the e-form for that. And there's a comment section as well. So go bonkers in the comment section. We'd like to hear from you. And hopefully we receive, there's 105 on the call. Hopefully there's 105 forms coming in the next few days. We'd really appreciate that. Next dates is 23rd and the 24th of April is the activation of these focus area groups. So that will be online meetings, different online meetings for the different focus groups, where we need to get everybody just to explain the rules of engagement and so forth. And then the physical or hybrid meetings for the focus area groups is the week before NAMPU, 6 to 9 May. We will share the structure and exactly how it's going to work, where the venue is going to be. And as I said, it's going to be a hybrid meeting. So that's scheduled for 6 to 9 May. It will be individual meetings for each and every focus area group. And then getting the ideas to the prioritization team by the 20th of May. So the prioritization team will meet on the 20th of May. And then 26th to 30 May, the innovation unit, we need to do our work, and the call for proposals is set to be sent out in June this year. This is very specific, very specifically geared at research, peer research proposals. So as I said, the call for proposals will be very direct and very specific. That will go out in June, and then we have to start these research projects within July this year. Whether it starts in July or the month after doesn't really matter, but we need to start in July with the research projects. The next slide, as you will see, just give it 2 seconds, is 100% similar. So as you see, we're gonna follow the exact same structure. This is not only for peer research projects, it can be for that as well, but this is to assist us with the project portfolio that Dewald also explained earlier, to guide us with the project portfolio for 2026 next year. So that is set for the exact dates. We will communicate that as well. but the dates the focus group meetings will be in August. The prioritization team needs to sit at the end of August so that the innovation unit can receive that and start to work on it throughout the month of August and September. The call for action for the implementing bodies, the third-party service providers and so forth needs to go out in September so that we can have all the finalization on the business plans and so forth by the end of September for us to do the annual project portfolio for the RMI's board to approve on the 12th of November. So let's start off with the first one. It's sort of a first round as well to test this, which is great. And then we'll do it all over again starting in August, and hopefully we'll have everything run smoothly. This is the last slide, then it's the last of me as well. So once again, give it 2 seconds. The biggest question is what's next? There we go. What's next? So the e-form will be sent to everybody on this call. It will also be available on our website, so you can distribute it to as many people as possible. It's not only for the people on the on this call, so please distribute it. Fill out the e-form so it can get back to us, so that we can analyze those and get back to everybody. So please give your feedback, give your comments, and indicate in which focus area you want to be and so forth, and nominate a facilitator. So there's the link. We'll share that, and we'll share it via email. We'll also share this presentation and the recording of this webinar or this presentation, and hopefully we can start this process. So please, just the e-form, and we would like to take it from there. I'm going to give back to Dewald now. Thank you for your time, and we're really looking forward to work with everybody.
Thank you, everybody. I think we noted all the comments. Very, very much obviously relevant, all the comments made. I started out to say that we don't have all the answers. I also indicated that we need your input. And as I said there, your feedback is noted and appreciated. And I think, luckily, we've learned at RMIS that we've got a very thick skin. So please keep coming with the comments, because we need to create something robust that works for the red meat industry in the South African context. We need to find a real midway between what we want to achieve with regards to the industry, where we're going, and the necessities of ensuring that we've got a very solid research foundation. But we need to also understand that this is, if we talk research and development, we don't only talk to, and I said it from the start, specific academic research. We're looking at more than that, and we need your input as researchers, also with regards to the applied part of it. At the end of the day, we can, and a lot of industry obviously is only business people. They want to make money, and we need your guidance with regards to the way that we take this forward. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you. You also have our contact details, again, as I said, to contact us directly. But please, we request that you go into the form. This is your opportunity to fill in the e-form, give us your feedback, we'll collate everything, and we look forward to see you at the specific meetings. Yes, I think there's many questions. I'm looking at the one question of Ryan Newborn now, and I agree. I think there's so many discussions that we have to have, but I think the committees must sort this out and say whether or not that's possible or not. So again, there's a guideline and a structure created, and we can, within this guideline and structure, actually change how we want it to be changed. So the opportunity is back to all of you to participate. I think so many requests have been had forthcoming to say, how do we participate and be part of this? This is now the opportunity to participate and be part of it. And thank you very much for the time. Luckily, we didn't go into 2 hours. But thank you, and we appreciate each and every one of you. We appreciate the fact that you made the time to listen to us. And we also appreciate the fact that you are willing to raise your voice and say, this is how you see us going forward. Thank you very much. We look forward to your feedback. And please keep on. We're going to stay online. If you want to add some more comments here, please type it in. We want to record all of it. So we're not going to put this or close this meeting now. We'll keep it recording. Have a wonderful day. And thank you. Lastly, thank you for your participation in our industry. You are valued.